welcome to the very first episode of Brewed Not Bought. My name is Steve.
And I'm Jen.
And today we're going to go ahead and talk about brewing what might be your first batch of beer. So recently, we just had the holidays, and you may have received one of these brewing kits. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the brewing kit itself, and we're going to talk to Jen here. We're going to show her how to go ahead and brew this first batch of beer. So essentially what we have here is a craft brew kit, which is made in Orlando, Florida, and that we got from Orlando Homebrew Supplies. The kit comes with everything you pretty much need. The only thing it doesn't come with is a little bit of the equipment, but we'll go over that in a minute. The kit itself will come with a bag of grains for steeping, a muslin bag, a package of yeast, some hops, some dry malt extract, and then instructions. Now it also comes with some sanitizer too. So, and then what you'll need to do to brew the beer is to have a pot, and then you'll need to have a 1 gallon carboy or a jug, and then a spoon. And that's pretty much going to be the bulk of it. So before we get started here, one of the most important things we talk about with home brewing is sanitation. So with the sanitation process, you're going to get the sanitizer that comes in the box, and you want to just follow the instructions on it. Most of the time, let's just go ahead and pour the sanitizer into a bucket. It's going to be about 1 ounce per like 5 gallons of water, and that's going to be your sanitizer. You don't need it right away, because the only thing you're ever going to really need it for is anything that's going to be after the boil, and then at that point forward for bottling. So you can just set it up and then put it off to the side and forget about it while we get started.
So how do I get started? That's
a great question. So getting started is pretty simple. What we first want to do is go ahead and measure out 1 gallon of water using our carboy here. Now, I've already gone and done this, but pretty much a gallon of water is just about right up to the neck. Afterwards, what we do is we pour that gallon of water right into the pot. And so now we've got the water in the pot. What we'll do is we'll move all of our equipment out of the way, because we don't want to set anything on fire, of course. And we're going to go ahead and turn the stove on. So go ahead and turn it on. Perfect. So what we want to do is we want to actually get our thermometer out, and we're going to get this water up until it's about 155 degrees. Once the water is at 155 degrees, we'll then go ahead and add the steeping grains. And we'll hold those grains in that water for about 15 minutes or so. The steeping grains really kind of add a little bit of roasty characters to the beer, and also imparts a little bit of color. That's kind of the big point behind it. You're not going to get a lot of alcohols or anything out of the steeping grains necessarily, but it's just more there for flavor. So we'll get this water at the temperature, and then afterwards we'll go ahead and get those grains ready and we'll put them on in. So while the water is getting ready and getting up to temperature, what I'm going to have Jen here do is go ahead and get these grains ready. So essentially the grains come in this little plastic bag. There's not a whole lot here, just a couple of ounces of them. And then we have this muslin bag. The muslin bag is pretty much just like a sock. So what I'll have you do, Jen, is actually let's start by getting this cut open. Alright, and now when you pour this in, it is going to make a little bit of a dusty mess. That's okay, it's to be expected. But go ahead and just pour these grains right into the bag itself. Perfect. Alright, now we've got the grains poured on in there. What we'll do is we'll just go ahead and tie it just like a big knot. And these grains are going to be ready to go. Once the water gets up to temperature, about 155 degrees, we'll then go ahead and put these grains in there. And we'll let them steep for about 15 minutes. Alright, so we are now at temperature. If you take our temperature probe, you can see we're actually at about 155 on the nose. Very good. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to turn this temperature down way down. We're just going to put it down on simmer. Not even, just put it down super low. Go ahead and add that bag of grains, Jen. Alright, excellent. And now we go ahead and say, hey Alexa, set a steeping timer for 15 minutes. Alright, so 15 minutes has passed, and now it's time to go ahead and take these grains on out. And so Jen's going to use a pair of tongs here, and we're just going to pull these out. Try not to squish the bag too much, because squishing the bag can release tannins. And so what we want to do is just let it drain a little bit. And now we'll go ahead and just put it in. Alright, excellent. So now that you got that done, go ahead and turn it up to about a medium-high heat. And we're going to let it rise up to a boil. All right, so our wort is now just about up to a boil. What we're going to do is we're going to turn the heat off entirely. And next, Jen is going to go ahead and add in our dry malt extract. We'll just cut a little bit off the corner here. And go ahead and start to pour that in. So Jen's going to keep stirring here the dry malt extract on into the wort. We want to make sure there's no clumps, and then once we have a pretty good fin and everything's all in there, we'll go ahead and turn the flame back on and get it up to a boil. Alright, so we have a rolling boil getting started here. In fact, we're going to turn this way down real quick. Go ahead and stir that just so we can prevent a boil over, which can happen. So when you get your boil started, just keep a very close eye so that way it does not cause a boil over. And once you kind of get past that boil up stage where you start to see it reach up, go ahead and turn the heat back up just a little bit. What you want to do, keep a close eye on it, because boilovers can happen and they can make a huge mess. And we actually just about had one there. We were about 3/4 of an inch away from having one. So what we're going to do next, we're going to add our very first addition to hops. This is going to be a Columbus hop. We're going to add it right now, and then we're going to start a timer for 60 minutes. Alright, so now that we have our first hop addition going, we're going to start the 60-minute boil. So what we'll do now, actually, because our next hop addition is added with 10 minutes of the boil left, we're going to set a timer for 50 minutes. So, Alexa, set a timer for 50 minutes.
50 minutes, starting now.
Cool. So we'll check back in just a little bit once this is done. Alright, so our timer just finished up. That was 50 minutes, it's 5-0. So we're just about all the way through our boil. And now the next step is going to be for us to add our Anthem hops. So Jen, give you the honors. There you go. Give them a nice stir, just put them right all in. Excellent. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and set our timer again for 10 minutes. And then at the end of that 10-minute boil, we're going to add our last addition of Anthem hops, which is going to be used at flame out, which is pretty much when we turn the burner off. At that point, we'll go ahead and start cooling the beer in our sink. We'll get to some video about that too in a minute. We'll show you all about that. Alexa, set timer for 10 minutes.
10 minutes, starting now.
Alright, so we have just a few minutes left in our boil. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and get our fermenter, our carboy sanitized. So to do so, we're just going to go ahead and put it into this sanitizer solution that we had mixed up earlier. And we're going to fill it all on up. Once we have it filled up, we're just going to go ahead and set it off to the side. Now in the meantime, what we're also going to do is we're going to prepare our way to chill. So once this beer is done boiling for after the full 60-minute boil, we're going to go ahead and actually put it into an ice bath. So we're making a quick and easy ice bath simply by just adding a bunch of ice from the freezer right into the sink, and then we're going to add water to the sink. So that way it gives it a nice ice bath, and when it's time to cool, we'll go ahead and just put the actual pot right in there and we'll let it sit. So let's go ahead and fill it up. Alright, so that's 10 minutes, and now it's the end of our boil. So go ahead and turn off the boiler there. Excellent. And now we're going to add our last hop addition. Our last hop addition is going to be Anthem hops, and this is for flame out. So we'll go ahead and add these hops right in. And now our next step is going to be to go ahead and actually put this kettle right into the sink. All right, so Jen has moved the pot of the hot wort from the sink, and it's now cooled down to what, 85 degrees or something, what you got it at. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and actually take our carboy from earlier, or our fermenter, and we're just gonna go ahead and drain. We're gonna drain all the starch sand out of it. And now what we're going to do is we actually have in our sanitizer also a funnel. All right, so Jen's going to go ahead now and pour the hot wort into the funnel and into the carboy. Excellent. Right. And now, as you can see, we really ended up rolling with about a half a gallon or so. That's to be expected. So when you do the boiling for an hour, it's going to boil off quite a bit of the wort in the process, and that's okay. So what we'll do next is we're going to go ahead and get some water. We're going to top it off. We're going to bring it up to probably right above the 1 gallon marker, which is right about here. And then from there, we'll go ahead and add our yeast, and then we'll put the airlock on and we'll let it ferment. All right, so we got some extra water now. We're going to go ahead and pour the water right on in. Excellent. So now we've got the water added to the actual fermenter itself. Let the bubbles settle down a little bit and let it finish chilling. Right about now, it's probably around 70 degrees or so. So technically, you could go ahead and add your yeast right now, but we're gonna let the foam settle down a little bit and then we'll add the yeast in just a few minutes. Outside of that, at this point now it's time to just start cleaning up. All right, so we are chilled. We actually did some quick cleanup there. We went ahead and filled up the carboy just a little bit more. As you can see, the foam is falling down a little bit, which is great. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and add our yeast. And so Jen, I'll go ahead and I'll give you the honors. Jen's gonna actually go ahead and cut just the corner of the yeast packet off. And now she's gonna go ahead and take the yeast and we're just gonna pour it right into the actual fermenter itself. Alright everyone, that's just about it. Jen has gone ahead and added the yeast to the beer. And so now what we're going to do is grab our airlock, which has been sitting inside of this sanitizer for a little while. We're going to put the airlock on, and at this point, once the airlock is in, the beer is ready to go and ferment. So what we'll do now is we're going to actually put this into our guest bathroom where it's about 70 degrees or so. We've got a little extra shower in there. And pretty much we're just going to let this guy go into town and ferment. During the fermentation, it's about a week to 2 weeks. And once the fermentation is done, we'll go ahead and put it into a bucket, add some priming sugar to it, and then put it in bottles, and then we'll be ready to drink about 2 weeks after that. So if you like what you saw today, please definitely subscribe to our channel. Hit the subscribe button and smash the bell, so that way you go ahead and get notification anytime we put up a new video. And besides that, happy brewing. Cheers.